Meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, July 28th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Harrison.
Present.
Alderperson Hoax.
Present.
Alderperson Keller. Alderperson Keller.
Present.
Alderperson Lytle.
Here.
Alderperson Swanson.
Here.
Alderperson Tucker Long.
Here.
And Alderperson Weiss.
Here.
And Alderperson Helmke is absent and excused.
All right, 7 people is enough for quorum. We can proceed. We'll go to item 4, which is public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak? Not seeing anyone rushing towards the microphone, we'll move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes from the July 14th, 2025 council meeting. Corrections or motions to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Motion to approve by Alder Harrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Swanson. Last chance for corrections. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the July 14th, 2025 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. I don't have anything for you, so we'll move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Oh, Alder Tucker Long.
The staff anniversary cards are coming around, so make sure you sign them before you leave today. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, which is administrator's report. Mr. Olick.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one thing, especially on a day like today, just wanted to let the public know in particular that we do have cooling centers in the city of Verona. They're designated as the Senior Center and the Verona Public Library. The Senior Center is open until 4 p.m. And the Public Library is open until 9 p.m. So if you need to cool off, those two facilities are available.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Olick? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 9, which is the engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. For the Country View Road project, phases 2 and 3 are under construction with 2 ponds that have been constructed, and they're currently undergoing topsoil and seeding. For Ardent Glen, phase 3B is under construction. Phase 4 grading is anticipated to start this week. The annual public stormwater facility inspections were completed, and the final spreadsheet was submitted to city staff on July 16th. And finally, the illicit discharge detection and elimination part of the city's municipal separate storm sewer system permit is starting. So you will see folks from AECom throughout the city inspecting 4 major outfalls, 3 minor and 1 priority. And those inspections occur after 72 hours of dry weather, and they're looking for discharges that would not be expected. So with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fisher? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 10, which is committee reports. First up, we have 10A, Finance Committee. Alder Lytle.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for payment of the bills in the amount of $767,773.10.
Motion by Alder Lytle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Lytle.
The major items for tonight are a payment to AECom for engineering services and a payment to Madison Metropolitan Sewage District related to the SSM facility connection fees. Just note that that is a amount that would be reimbursed as part of the construction process.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Finance?
That's all. Thanks.
Excellent. We'll move on to 10B, which is Cemetery Board. Alder Tucker Long.
Yes, I would like to move that we pass the changes to ordinance number 25-1070, amending Title 7, Chapter 1, Section 8, Animals Restricted on Public Grounds.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Harrison. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. So this proposed ordinance removes the prohibition on dogs, cats, and other pets being in the cemetery grounds. It was unanimously approved by the cemetery board to recommend approval here.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This feels like sort of a silly question, but I assume that regulations for the city as far as being responsible for your animals apply within the city cemetery as well?
Alder Tucker Lund.
Yes, they would. So animals need to be on leash, and also later on in the cemetery ordinances, we make that a lot more clear as well. But all city ordinances for maintaining your pets and animals in public would apply.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 25-1070, amending Title 7, Chapter 1, Section 8, Animals Restricted on Public Grounds, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Tucker Lund.
I move that we pass ordinance number 25-1071, amending Title 11, Chapter 3, Section 5, Cemetery Regulations.
Motion by Alder Tucker Lund. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Host. Alder Tucker Lund.
Thank you. These following changes to the cemetery ordinance have been proposed by the cemetery board and unanimously approved to recommend to Common Council. These specific ordinances apply to all privately and publicly owned cemeteries within the city. It clarifies that no person shall disturb cemetery property except the property owner, a person with the lot owner's consent, a cemetery employee, or a representative engaged in official cemetery duties. It also clarifies that no one shall kill, injure, or disturb any wild or domestic animals in any cemetery without specific written authorization of the cemetery owner. It designates that with the exception of authorized maintenance vehicles, motor vehicles are only allowed in the cemetery while engaging in official cemetery business and are restricted to the roads and parking areas specifically designated for motor vehicle use, and further provides that an unlawfully parked vehicle may be towed at the vehicle owner's expense. It specifies that pets must be kept on a leash or in a closed carrier at all times within the cemetery. It clarifies that sound devices may only be used with written consent from the cemetery owner. It clarifies that no person shall advertise on objects within the cemetery, and no person shall post notices or information without written consent of the property owner. It cleans up the consumption of alcoholic beverages regulations by applying the city park ordinances to cemeteries as well, so that when they are updated, it will automatically apply to the cemeteries as well. And it specifies that anyone in the cemetery after the posted hours must have the written consent of the cemetery owner. It also consolidates and clarifies several other areas within the ordinance. And I'm happy to answer any questions about why the board is recommending these changes.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 25-1071, amending Title 11, Chapter 3, Section 5, Cemetery Regulations, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Tucker Lund.
Yes, I move to approve ordinance number 25-1075, amending Title 12, Chapter 2, Cemeteries.
Motion by Alder Tucker Lund. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Harrison. Alder Tucker Lund.
So this chapter is slightly different from the previous one because the previous one applied to all private and publicly owned cemeteries within the city limits. This one specifically applies to the city-owned cemetery. So the following ordinance changes were unanimously approved by the cemetery board to request approval by the Common Council. We added a lot of references to various sections instead of repeating ordinances there because they weren't being repeated consistently. And so adding references keeps everything up to date more easily. We defined several of the terms that were previously defined inconsistently, including sexton, relative, reburial, and outer burial container. We clarify the responsibilities of the cemetery board, the finance director, the parks director, and the city staff in managing the city cemetery. We clarify the conditions for the sale and repossession of single grave lots, which is dictated per Wisconsin state statutes. So bringing that all into compliance. It clarifies that the city will only issue deeds after a full payment is made, and that we added a deed reconveyance fee for repurchasing unused lots, and clarified that it is the original purchase price, not the current purchase price of the plot. We clarified that all reburials must comply with state law and receive formal authorization from the appropriate cemetery authority. We have clarified that structures, fences, and items will be allowed in the cemetery with written approval from the cemetery board or the sexton. Previously, all structures, fences, or any items, including wreaths or flowers, were prohibited in the cemetery. So we are cleaning that up to allow those things with permission. We clarify the vehicles having to stay on the road. We clarified that markers must have a foundation appropriate to the style of marker or monument because we have several monuments out there. Previous regulations required a cement foundation, and that can actually be super harmful to the historic tombstones or tablet-style markers. And so we wanted to update this to allow for the proper fittings for those types of foundation, or for those types of markers, because placing them in cement foundations has caused a lot of damage to them, and we've lost a couple of the historic markers. So this update was to preserve the historic markers that we have and ensure that future markers are placed in the proper type of foundation to adequately preserve the markers. Let's see. We also allowed the cemetery board or the sexton to require a deposit prior to burial to ensure timely placement of a proper marker or monument. And we reserve the right to place a marker or monument and to assess any surviving owners of the lot for the cost of the marker or monument placed and the cost of installation of such marker or monument. This is to prevent unmarked graves that slowly over time everybody forgets who's there. So just to try to keep things organized and clear. Originally, construction of vaults and mausoleums was prohibited. We updated this to be prohibited without specific city council approval on the recommendation of the cemetery board. We updated the payments and payment methods and fees to refer to the city fee schedule instead of being clarified in the ordinances. And again, there were a lot of changes in this chapter, so if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to discuss why and what for. Thanks.
Thank you. Alder Weiss.
Were there any changes that were controversial or discussed, or things that there was debate about, or was it?
I mean, we debated all of these changes for multiple meetings. So we've spent many, many hours talking about all of these, trying to make sure. Probably the one that is the most contentious is allowing flowers and wreaths on the graves. In the past, the ordinances conflicted with the cemetery regulations, which conflicted with the cemetery rules that are posted at the cemetery. So we're trying to make sure everything at least agrees with each other. Because, for instance, the cemetery rules allowed you to place certain things, whereas the cemetery regulations allowed you to place other things, and the city ordinances did not allow you to place anything at the graves. And we felt that was overly restrictive and doesn't really honor traditional and current burial practices and ways of honoring your loved ones. So we wanted to make that still within reason, but less restrictive for now. And we'll be having a deeper discussion on what exactly will be allowed and what won't be allowed in the regulations, but didn't feel that needed to be defined in the ordinance.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 25-1075, amending Title 12, Chapter 2, Cemeteries, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. I move to approve the changes to the fee schedule for the cemetery fees.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Keller. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. These proposed updates to the fee schedule from the cemetery board were unanimously approved for recommendation to the Common Council, and they increased the fee for residential lots from $800 to $1,100. They increase the fee for non-residential lots from $800 to $1,400, and they create a single fee to stake burials or monuments at $100. Currently, there is only one fee for lots not distinguished between residential and non-residential. And the staking fees were currently at $75 for staking for a burial and $60 for staking for monuments. The reasoning for combining those staking fees is because it's the same amount of staff time and labor to do the staking. And so there was no reason for it to be different fees. And the increases to the cost of the lots was based on a study of other cemeteries, both privately and municipality owned in the area. And we were woefully behind. We have not raised the prices, I believe, since 2014, 2015. So it's been a long time since prices were updated. Actually, it might have been 2017. Anyways, a while. If anyone has any questions on the price changes, let me know.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the cemetery fee schedule signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. I would like to ask for your unanimous consent to move item 11B, which should have been included under the cemetery board, to the next item that we consider. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Alder Tucker Long, 11B.
Thank you. I move to approve ordinance number 25-1074, amending Title II, Chapter 4, Section 13 for the Cemetery Board.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Harrison. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. The proposed ordinance changes, the proposed ordinance makes the following changes to the Cemetery Board. It designates the Public Works, Water, and Sewer Committee Chair as the Chair of the Cemetery Board. Previously, the Chair was not defined. It specifies that the Board shall meet at the request of the Common Council and at least annually to report to the Common Council as to the financial condition, the number of internments during the previous calendar year, and any other information affecting the efficient operation of the cemeteries. Previously, it specified on a certain date and required it to be that specific date, whether or not there was a Common Council meeting that day or not. So we're just trying to make it more flexible so that the report can be made to the council at a council meeting. If anyone has any questions on the updates to this, let me know.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this update? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 25-1074, amending Title II, Chapter 4, Section 13, Cemetery Board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from the Cemetery Board?
Nothing further from Cemetery Board.
Excellent. With that, we will move on to 10C, which is Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Host.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve a temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B wine license for Art House 360 for the Dancing with the Arts fundraising event on August 15th, 2025.
Motion by Alder Host. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Host.
Thank you. The Art House 360 is hosting a fundraising event on August 15th. At the Art House, they are requesting to sell alcohol in the upper level community room and the designated patio near the rear entrance. There will be a licensed bartender at both locations, and staff recommend approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and temporary Class B wine license for Art House 360 for the Dancing with the Arts fundraiser on August 15, 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Host.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 25-1072, amending Title 10, Chapter 3, Section 8, snowmobile routes.
Motion by Alder Host. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Harrison. Alder Host.
Thank you. The proposed revised ordinance is based on a review of current snowmobile club needs and feedback from staff. There will be a few routes removed, so all of South Nine Mound Road is removed. It also removed outdated street names and cleans up things like references to Fireman's Road, which does not exist anymore. It also makes mention of, I guess specifically calls out that if and when the path is paved, snowmobiles would no longer be allowed on the path. Following routes would be added. Wildcat Way right-of-way starting 600 feet north of the intersection of Wildcat Way and the Military Ridge State Trail to the eastern property boundary of 233 Wildcat Way. Also, half-mile road right-of-way from 9 Mound Road to West End Circle. And the city administrator has some clarification on that.
Yep, substitute this line. This substitution was made in the committee meeting, so this is how it should read. Is a half-mile road from West End Circle to the west end of the existing culvert. So on that very west side, on Half Mile Road, there's a culvert, and leave it to Ms. Catherine Holt to catch it. And so we don't want snowmobiles going over that culvert, so this language puts us in a better position.
Okay.
So I guess you can picture it, if they're going down Military Ridge State, or the trail where it crosses, or you go underneath Wildcat Way, they're going to be making there's an access to the Quick Trip at the school.
So if I would describe the route just real quick, if you're coming from the west towards Verona, there's a small gravel trail that exists on Military Ridge State Trail just south of the school. You exit there, you actually go across past a new parking lot over in that corner of the school, and then go to the north. That's if they have their agreement signed with the school district, by the way, to the ball fields, and then you cross over. That's Wildcat Way, and then basically they're meandering their way using our right-of-way to get to the Quick Trip to fuel up. That's really what's going on. But we only have control over the rights-of-way that we have control over, so that's on that map that would have been included. That's where Wildcat Way and Half Mile Road come into play.
Alder Hooks, was that everything?
I think that covers it.
Okay. I just had a quick clarifying question then. So then, if the snowmobile club wanted to get permission to go across school property, that's just something they need to deal with the school board?
Correct.
Okay.
And my understanding, they have.
No, they are, to my knowledge, they're discussing potentially, I don't know if they've actually met, but they have meant to meet with the school district about this.
Great. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Lytle.
I'm curious, because Half Mile Road isn't really a road, does that limit our ability to, at some point, whatever we might need to do to better utilize that for stormwater management or widening of West Verona? I guess we could find an alternate versus the slightly elevated roadbed that exists there where Half Mile Road is. Like, we're not limiting ourselves necessarily. We just have to kind of revise this one more time with the access.
Mr. Olive?
Yep, exactly right. We'd come back, we'd have this conversation again, and if we needed to modify something, we would.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 25-1072, amending Title 10, Chapter 3, Section 8, snowmobile routes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from public safety?
Nothing further, thank you.
Excellent. With that, we will move on to 10D, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. I move to approve the inspection services contract for Ardent Glen Phase 4 with JT Engineering.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Keller. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. Ardent Glen Phase 4 will be constructed this year. Staff recommend contracting, construction, inspection services with JT Engineering. JT Engineering has inspected the previous phases of construction and is currently contracted on multiple other projects in the city. All fees associated with inspection services are the responsibility of the developer. Staff recommend approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Sorry.
Sorry, one more thing. I noticed that the dollar amount is not in here. Do we need to include the dollar amount in this?
I'm seeing shaking heads from our attorney, so I
Sounds
think we're good. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the inspection services contract for Art and Glen Phase 4, JT Engineering, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Tucker Long.
I move to approve the design services contract for the 3 Military Ridge State Trail Bridges with MSA Professional Services, Inc., not to exceed $196,261.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Swanson. Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. The condition of the bridges was evaluated as a part of the design services contract with JT Engineering for paving of the Military Ridge State Trail from Old PB to approximately 400 feet west of Wildcat Way. The bridges were determined to need replacement prior to the pavement installation. The city received 3 proposals to design the bridge replacements for construction in 2026. MSA has a long portfolio of similar bridge design projects, including the pedestrian bridge over Badger Mill Creek installed as part of the MMSD Force Main upgrades in 2024. MSA is also going to be working on other bridges along the Military Ridge State Trail that are handled by the DNR. And so they have a good relationship with the DNR and have a lot of awareness of how the bridges need to be created. So staff recommends approval of the Military Ridge State Trail Bridge Design Contract with MSA Professional Services, Inc.
Thank you. I just want to quick say thank you to staff for keeping this moving. I know even 2026, it might be a stretch, but I think we should do everything we can to make sure it gets paid next year. Other thoughts from the council? Alder Lytle.
Just curious, if we received 3 proposals, was the selection based on price, qualifications, some balance of those factors? I know professional services are different than construction.
Mr. Manning?
The selection was primarily on qualifications. The pricing came in later. So we didn't want to, So after reviewing information provided is when we started discussing the price.
That'll do. Thank you.
All right.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the design services contract for 3 Military Ridge State Trail Bridges with MSA Professional Services, Inc., in the not to exceed amount, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Works?
Nothing further from Public Works.
Excellent. With that, we'll move on to item 11, new business, which is 11A, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 25-1073, amending Title II, Chapter 2, Section 5, Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Mr. Alec.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed ordinance makes the following changes. Designates the title of the committee the Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee, specifies the Public Works Director or their designee shall attend committee meetings, removes a stipulation, the subsection is repealed effective October 31st, 1997, unless the Common Council adopts a resolution on or before that date, either extending this subsection or making it permanent. That's what I got, Mayor.
Any questions or comments on this motion? Oh, sorry. That's right. Any motions, questions, or comments? Alder Tucker Long.
I move to approve ordinance amending, ordinance number 25-1073.
It's on the monitor.
25-1073, amending Title II, Chapter 2, Section 5, Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Swanson. Anything to add, Alder Tucker Long?
This is something I came across while looking up something else in the ordinances. And I just wanted to clarify that designating the title of the committee was just standardizing the way the committee is referenced amongst all the other ordinances. This is the only place where it included the word building. So it was just standardizing that. And then it had specified a couple of other people, including like a city engineer and such, that had to attend, but not the Public Works Director. And so we just updated that to kind of standardize to how we're holding the meetings now with the Public Works Director in attendance or one of their designees. And then, obviously, repealing the stipulation that the committee is not permanent.
I saw Alder Swanson had his hand up.
My question is irrelevant, so.
Excellent. Other questions or comments on the motion? Alder Lidle.
Sorry, I'll be a little pedantic. The top of the page where the ordinance is listed in the packet says 25-1070. I'm sure this could be worked out among you all, but just wanted to make sure we weren't accidentally amending the wrong ordinance number.
Clerk Licht.
Yes, that was a typo, and I have it corrected in the ordinance that's going to be signed tonight. It should be what's listed on the agenda as number 25-1073, not 1070.
Good catch, though. Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 25-1073, amending Title II, Chapter 2, Section 5, Public Works, Sewer and Water Committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We already addressed 11B, so we'll move on to item 12, which is old business. First up, we have a discussion and possible action regarding the development agreement with Argus Apartments Affordable Housing Project. I think we should talk about this policy-wise in open session, and then if it comes down to negotiating points and instructions for city staff, we could go into closed session for that. Mr. Olick.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. A draft development agreement has been created for the Argus Apartment Affordable Housing Project located at 1050 North Edge Trail, Verona. Staff would like to discuss the agreement with the Common Council. If terms and conditions are discussed, staff requests to convene into closed session.
Anything to add, Mr. Kleinmeyer?
Sure. I mean, I'm certainly willing to talk generally about the agreement that's in your packet. Although I'm not sure, I know Chief is here, and I wasn't sure if you wanted to address some questions with Chief first before we start diving into the agreement.
Yeah, we could. I might have some questions. I know some other alders might have questions as well regarding this. Alder Keller.
Because, I'm like the new kid on the block here, and I'm trying desperately to catch up. I guess in reading this agreement and in talking with some of my peers, it seemed like their previous, the classic development there had been a lot of police presence needed. And so I was wondering how this new iteration of the contract, whether or not you felt like it addressed some of your concerns from a policing perspective, and whether or not you anticipated that this would help for this new development.
I can't speak on the contract because I have not personally seen it. I do have data that we just obtained last week where we ran the data for the first 6 months of the year for select apartment complexes. I have that specific data in front of me. What I can say is that, the Classic as a standalone building receives way more calls for service than other buildings, other apartment complexes that have multiple buildings in our community. And if you're interested in actual numbers, I do have that. I was going to bring that along with me at Personnel Committee, I think on Thursday. But if you're interested in it now, I have it at my disposal.
What kind of calls?
Well, that's the good news, is that Verona still enjoys a low crime rate. So we're not really talking about crime. We're not really talking about major public nuisances. It's more of a demand for service. And disturbances, noise complaints contained within the building. Some wanted people that were looking for other agencies for folks that are wanted in their jurisdiction. So again, the frequency is higher than other apartment complexes in our community, but there isn't really anything that alarming as the type of calls.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. How has management been to work with? Have they been good, bad, neutral?
They've been good to work with. It's my understanding there's quite a bit of turnover with the property manager, and I believe we're on number 4, number 5 since the building was developed, and so It is hard to maintain those relationships when there's such high turnover.
Other questions for Chief Dresser? Alder Lytle.
So I know we don't want to necessarily draw conclusions about the market rate versus affordable housing, but this is not the only affordable housing multifamily development in the city. Would you say that compared to other affordable housing in the city, that the call volume here is higher as well?
That's a good question, because beyond the apartment complexes that we look at, and you know, for those, it's more buildings, more units, and so that's where the call number is a little more alarming. We have also looked at other standalone buildings, such as Park Verona, 506 West Verona Avenue, Shetler Terrace on Pale Street. Those are pretty much standalone buildings. Those call volumes are higher as well. Typically more EMS calls. Quite a few EMS calls, so still a demand on city services, compared to the classic where I think there are only 2 EMS calls, so the type of call is different.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chief Dresser? Alder Harrison.
Just a point of clarification. Do you have like a ratio of like per capita, per person, or per unit, I guess? Like a volume of calls at these other places versus volume of calls, you know, per head at the classic?
Yeah, we haven't done that comparison yet, you know, calls per number of units. I have thought about that myself, that might be interesting. So right now, we just kind of have the general numbers.
I guess I'll add on to that, and I think it would be super useful. It would help me understand, I think, what I'm seeing with the numbers. Other questions for Chief Dresser? Okay, Mr. Kleinmeyer, if you want to talk about the agreement?
Sure. So within your packet, starting on, I think it was on page 108, is an agreement that was prepared by the developer and provided to the city. And I was just going to, there are certainly definitely, or there are terms and conditions that I think we will want to walk through in closed session to get your feedback as to how we're going to respond. I guess I just kind of wanted to talk, at a high level about the agreement. This would be an agreement. It would be for an affordable housing project. And what I mean by that is the council has taken some past action with at least, I think, 2 TIF districts and maybe more, where there's a state law that allows effectively, once we've paid off our project costs, we can allow the district to remain open for a certain number of months, up to, I believe, a year, to essentially use the increment that is generated during that time period to be put into an affordable housing TIF fund account. And then the city and any municipality who has that in place is able to utilize the funds from that account to pay for, affordable housing as that is defined under the statutes. And so that essentially would be the purpose for this agreement if the council moves forward with it. I can tell you that there will be some pretty substantial changes made to the document that is in the packet from the standpoint of we will be putting in a fair amount of references to the TIF law. Because, when you get down to it, the funding that is associated with this fund, it was generated from TIF increment under the TIF law, and how we distribute it. And so you will see a lot of the language that we have, for example, in all of our TIF agreements put into this document. Because one of the things that's very important is we want to make clear that whatever amount, if we do the agreement, whatever amount the city is going to provide to them is coming from this affordable TIF fund. Because we need to have language in here to make clear that it's not coming from the general fund or that it's a general obligation of the city, because then there's certainly ramifications of that. The other language that's going to be put in here too is just, we need to add, we've talked about this before when we've done the resolutions where we've extended the TIF districts, but under the TIF law, affordable housing is defined as housing that costs a household no more than 30% of the household's gross monthly income. And so then when we talk about how we use this funding, the city of our pool of funds that we have, 75% of that money needs to be used to benefit affordable housing in the city. So we need, to protect ourselves, we need to essentially reinsert some of these definitions and other concepts into the agreement. It's going to be, a lot of the language is going to be similar or identical to the language that we always have in our TIF agreements. And so I just wanted to flag that for you because it's very important. And it also, one of the things that we need to talk through with the developer, and here I'll just kind of focus on, now I'm jumping ahead to page 4 of the agreements, in what is a section 3C. Here's where the developer starts talking about, how it's going to be use the funding. And for example, I think it's this section. Yes, it starts talking about all units in the project shall be rented to or set aside for occupancy by tenants earning 80% or below of the area median income, and it goes on. One of the things that we need to talk to the developer is here, that's talking about how much does somebody earn, where when we talk about the statutes, we have to make sure that it gets into, how is your income and the ratio of what the household and what the household growth, the housing costs are, sorry. And we just have to make sure that all matches up, because the bottom line is this: when we have an agreement with somebody, a developer, we have to make sure that if we're going to use money from this fund, that it's being spent based on what the statutory criteria is. And so it may be the case that how they're describing this is also going to apply, would apply to the affordable housing definition, but we need to have further discussions with them and work through that. And then the other thing that I'm going to be recommending as part of this process is we certainly want some indemnification language in there, so that if it turns out that that's not true, the city's not the one that's on the hook, it's the developer. And so again, that's just, these are what I would describe as black and white issues. In other words, this is funding that is, how the money is spent is dictated by the statutes. And so that's not really a negotiation tactic. That's just a language issue that we're going to be working through within the document. I think, I'm certainly willing to talk about some other issues, if you want to, in open session, or try to answer some questions. I think that primarily hits what I wanted to talk about, which is, again, it is going to look different than what's in your packet, because we believe that we need to, or my recommendation is to be adding language in regarding the statute to make clear to everyone this is where the money came from and this is how it's going to be spent. There's definitely some language in here regarding, the way that they've proposed this, and it's consistent, I think, with the presentation they made to the Common Council, is this would not be a grant, this would be a loan. And a lot of what I would like to discuss with you in closed session is just the terms of the loans and how you would want to approach that.
Got it. All right, I guess I would open it up to questions or comments from the council. Alder Tucker-Long and Alder Lytle.
So I see in section 4, they define how much per year they'll be putting into the replacement reserve. When the developer came and made a presentation to us, he mentioned that they would also be putting aside a certain amount of money to provide services, like social type services. And I don't see that in here anywhere.
So we would, that's, again, and this is their draft, that's not our draft, but yeah, we would definitely want to, whatever it is that the city, the Common Council wants to see as it relates to those services, we definitely are going to want to incorporate that into the agreement.
Okay, absolutely, thanks.
Alder Lytle.
My questions may be a little more nerdy. Under 3B, we talk about wanting the project to achieve LEED Silver certification, LEED Zero Energy, or they do in their version. Yet we're dispersing the loan in full at construction completion. My understanding, and maybe Ms. Fisher knows this, actual LEED certification can trail construction completion by a decent period of time. So whether we would basically, if they would fail that LEED certification, we would have a challenge enforcing this, I would imagine, and whether we would want to revise that to say designed to achieve, Or maybe I'm just getting the lead stuff confused with other
Or,
certifications.
or you have the ability to say, we'll disperse the money after it's been certified.
Yeah, this is maybe more weedy than we need to be getting into right now, but I think there is a time sequence of events that we might want to think about for that.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, what you, and this is, obviously, this is your first crack at taking a look at this, and I've already told you that we're going to be amending it, but at the end of the day, you know, you have to, you have to be happy that the contract says you're getting what you want before you're going to distribute the funds. And if that means they get a little delayed, then, you know, at the end of the day, you're the ones who control this. And so, you know, also along with the services concept, we'll put that in there. But there's always got to be, you know, I mean, if they sign the contract that says they're going to do it, they need to do it. And if they don't do it, there have to be consequences for that, essentially.
Anything further? That's it. I guess I'll call on myself real quick. Does anyone know if they're getting money from the county? Okay, because like the county money comes with strings attached as well, and some of the environmental stuff that they're doing might be because the county's making them, which doesn't necessarily mean we should keep it out of our contract either, but they might just be obligated for other reasons. And then I just want to make a general comment, like, obviously there's negotiations to this process and there's a give and take, but also like the developer's asking for public money. So to the extent that we think it's important, we can absolutely dictate terms. If it's absolutely essential for you to say, well, for example, that there has to be services there, we can just put that in the contract and they can take it or leave it. You know, this is, as our attorney I'm sure would tell us, we're not obligated to give them this money. We can just say no if we want. So I do want to put that out to the group that if there's something that's a red line for you or something that just has to be in there, then we can say no if it's not there, or at least a certain alder can vote against it or alders can vote against it. But other thoughts on the agreement or on the project, I guess?
If I could just add one thing, Mayor. I would just say, I mean, for purposes of tonight's, I mean, we're going to, it sounds like we're going to go into closed session. You're not going to be asked to approve anything tonight.
Right.
And I think probably, especially the way that this discussion has gone thus far, is in all likelihood what will happen is we will modify the agreement internally and then probably bring it back to you before we even provide it to the developer, because you've already raised some good concepts. And before we sent, for example, in the services, before we would provide the version to the developer on what the services say, we would want to make sure that you are satisfied with that. And that's just one example.
Okay. Other questions or comments for open session? Seeing no further discussion, I guess I would entertain a motion to go into closed session if someone wants to make it. Alder Swanson.
So moved.
There, you have to read. You have to read the
I
whole
I move for us to transition to a closed session per our
So it's
as
like,
authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85, subsection 1, subsection E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business. Whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary, the Common Council may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session. Did I get that right?
I think so. I mean, you could have mentioned the specific topic, but I think it's apparent to everyone. Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Weiss. This, of course, is a roll call vote. If Clerk Licht would read the roll.
Alderperson Harrison.
Aye.
Alderperson Hoax.
Aye.
Alderperson Keller.
Aye.
Alderperson Lytle.
Aye.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Alderperson Tucker Long.
Aye.
And Alderperson Weiss.
Aye.
Okay, we will convene in closed session. We had a fruitful discussion in closed session, and we expect to have more in the future. With that, I will move on to item 13, which is adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Hoax. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Tucker Long. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 8:47 p.m. Thank you, everyone.